a sneak peek at what's coming up next.
Referred to in certain ways. But
what about homo habilis? Does that count? Because I've been called a homo habilis.
Yeah. I mean, that counts too. But like,
I'm a primitive human being.
But here's the thing. Did you get all pissy and shit at them and decide to educate them? I was called a lot of fucking things because I danced ballet as a kid.
You sure it's not because you like dick in the butt?
I mean, I am also bi. The thing about it is, like, I was called all of those things, and did it hurt when I was 8? Actually, no, because I didn't understand any of it.
Once again, are you talking about your uncle? Or?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Didn't hurt because I didn't understand what was going on. Please don't clip that.
That's what the
out.
Vaseline is for.
Yeah, that's right. That's what the Vaseline is for.
That is fucking horrible. All right. Well, welcome to another episode of On the Spectrum podcast. My name is Steve.
Hi, I'm Nick.
He is. He's very Nick. Very Nick in every way.
I am.
So before we get started today, Nick and I were talking before we recorded. We actually had a different subject plan for today, but we wanted to talk about something in particular. There's a thing that I've noticed a lot on websites, social media sites in particular, like on Reddit, Facebook. People say all the time that when you say something, we're talking more specifically about words, although you can apply it to really anything, people's behavior or actions. They say that intent does not matter. I disagree. And so I've gotten into several arguments with people about intent and if intent matters or not. Now, as autistic people, I think people often misinterpret our intentions. Mm-hmm. And we may unintentionally upset people or anger people at times without intent. Are you okay?
No, I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine. It's just
you're fidgeting.
I'm having a fucking moment and I'm trying not to interrupt you, but I interrupted you anyway, and I don't mean to, and I apologize, sir, but I'm still having a fucking moment, okay? Just fucking talk.
So I've been arguing with people online. Not really arguing. It's more so like friendly debate. But I don't understand this whole idea of intention doesn't matter. And to those people, I would ask a couple questions. If intent doesn't matter,
that's better.
One,
yeah.
If intent doesn't matter, do hate crimes exist? Two, the other question I would ask you is if intent doesn't matter, why do we differentiate between first-degree murder, second-degree murder, third-degree murder in some states,
and manslaughter?
And manslaughter.
Oh, you were going there.
If intent doesn't matter, then why do we differentiate things? If someone has the intention to be hurtful based on someone's race, disability, etc., why is that crime classified as a hate crime instead of just murder or assault and battery? Right. Or something
Why do we add that next qualifier to it of hate crime if intent doesn't matter?
Hold on, let me add some context to this before.
Keep going, because somebody's going to have a problem with that.
I want you to respond, but the context is we're talking about people saying.
Oh, you wanted me to answer all that?
No. Saying the context I'm talking about is people online saying things like, if you say something hurtful, that it doesn't matter what your intention was. So, for instance, if you say the R word, if you say, you say, oh, that's
wants a medical diagnosis, by the way.
If you say something is gay, like, oh, that's so gay, right?
Or gi. I used to call it gi, and then somebody was like, we're not doing karate.
If you say something's gay, what this person is saying is that it doesn't matter what your intention or the reason is.
Yeah.
And I understand their reasoning. I'm not going to say like that. I understand where they're coming from, and I do agree that it doesn't necessarily lessen the impact or change how it affects the person who's affected by what you said or what you did. However, me as a person, I do take into consideration things like, what if the person is not from my culture? What if they come from a different culture? What if they're ignorant for some reason? They just don't know that what they're saying is hurtful. I do take their intention and where they're coming from into account. And yes, if somebody says something that bothers me, but I don't think they did it intentionally to harm me, it doesn't bother me as much. Sure. Other people are saying these people are saying is that it doesn't matter to them if you say that's gay and I'm gay. It doesn't matter what your intention was. It's still going to hurt me the same way regardless. And if that's how they feel, okay, fine. But what I don't like is them telling me that I'm wrong in saying that intent matters.
So two things on that. And One, how come when we always talk about intent, okay, and maybe this is a side note to this motherfucker, but how come when we talk about intent, we only ever talk about the negative side, right? Intent doesn't matter. So if somebody intended to be nice to you, if somebody intended to do something well to you, fuck that. That doesn't matter. You didn't achieve that goal. Like that sounds like an asshole fucking thing to do.
Or you could also
talk about it.
You could also intend to do something nice, but end up upsetting or pissing someone off.
Well, and that was something I was going to say as well is the other side of that, like because you were just talking about like name calling and hate speech and saying something is gay, because I get why that would be offensive, because you know you're using it derogatorily, intent mattering right there. But on that, like, why don't we look at less severe versions of that? Like if you say something and it unintentionally affects somebody else's feelings because of whatever reason, in a lesser than, you know, derogatorily speaking about their community. But what if you didn't mean to? Like, what if me and you are talking about, like, say we're in a history class and we're talking about the Holocaust, we're talking about World War II, but somebody gets upset because their grandfather was in a concentration camp. Well, am I the asshole because I'm talking about it in a history fucking class and they're fucking triggered by it?
I think what their point is for these people saying this stuff is that regardless of what your intention is, you still upset or you still hurt somebody. And
I've got to ask the question because I'm the power asshole in the room. I've got to ask the question, and I'm sorry if this sounds insensitive, but why are their fucking feelings my fucking problem?
I mean, that is by definition insensitive. I mean,
yeah, it is. It is.
That's literally, I don't give a fuck about your feelings. All right, Ben Shapiro.
But I'm, as I always do, I'm saying that in a big generic, you know, fucking big way.
You're actually going to say facts don't care about your feelings.
Well, so no, they don't.
I was saying you're Ben Shapiro.
Yeah. But what I am saying with it is, it's not just a matter of like, fuck your feelings, because I'm not trying to say fuck your feelings. I'm saying validate them for yourself.
No, but you're saying fuck your feelings.
No, not completely. Not completely.
If feelings were what I'm saying orifice, is like,
you would fuck them. If you look somebody dead in the eye, okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and use that R word real quick, just because I want to illustrate my fucking point. If you look somebody dead in the eye and say, fuck you, retard, okay?
This person said there was no context in which you can use that word.
Really?
This person I had a conversation with, they said that there is no context where it's acceptable to use the R word. No context ever.
Okay, well, you know, you can look at some of the medical diagnosis at my fucking job if you want and see that there is, because a doctor fucking wrote that shit. And they might be like, yeah, you shouldn't be there. Shut the fuck up.
What if you use a fire extinguisher and the fire is being quelled? Wouldn't you be retarding the fire?
You would be retarding the fire. Yes, you would. And there is fire retardant wood. Anyway, I'm gonna fucking say it.
You say that fire. That fire was
it.
Retarded.
Yeah, I don't. It was retarded. Anyway, so if you look at somebody dead in the eye and say you fucking whatever, right?
Yeah,
you're a fucking whatever. That, come on, we can tell full well you're trying to insult somebody in that regard. But if you are talking about people who have MR, because at one point it was called MR, okay, mental, okay. Granted, it's classified as something else now, but it takes a while before those classifications fucking catch on in fucking mental health, and it takes a while for people fucking to come around. Plus, some of these diagnoses were back when we called it MR. So it's still written down on a piece of paper as MR.
People also will eventually find a way to make fun of whatever the new word is.
Right. So, like, it doesn't matter the word.
Have you heard of autistic people being called acoustic? Have you heard that one?
I'm sorry, what?
So there are...
They're being called...
I think this is more of a problem.
They're being called not plugged in.
I think
not electric.
I think this is more of a problem like in schools and stuff like that. Right. Probably like grade school kids.
Yeah.
But I was reading online that kids are, instead of calling people autistic, they find ways to call them autistic without saying autism.
Yeah.
So they'll call them acoustic.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like,
okay, fine.
So you know what I mean, but I didn't say it.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to the whole like, fuck you feelings thing.
But that's them purposely trying to be insulting.
But just because somebody's purposely trying to insult you, how about not feed into that shit? How about even if you feel a certain fucking way about it, how about not giving them the fucking pleasure of having that much control over you? And by the way,
doesn't that come from a place of privilege though?
What? Of
being able to have that attitude.
Being able to have the attitude of I'm not going to let them get to me?
Yeah.
I mean, quite honestly, there's been a lot of marginalized communities that have been fucking taking up that attitude a lot and for a very long time.
Okay.
I mean, straight up, I've watched a ton of movies about, people having to deal with racism, in the 50s and 60s. And they were like, I'm not going to give them the pleasure.
I'm playing devil's advocate because I'm trying to.
No. Throw it at me.
I'm telling you things that I've heard other people say.
I know you are. You know what? I'm gonna tell you. I was watching a movie at one point, and yes, it's a fucking movie, so whatever. But I was watching a movie, and they were talking about the people who sat at the lunch counter.
Yeah,
during civil rights, and they sat at the lunch counter to one of the sit-ins. But they were sitting there, and one guy was saying to another guy who was sitting at the table, "Don't give in to them. Don't react to them, because if you react to them, you're giving them what they want. So don't react to them. Just sit there." So I've always kind of taken that as if somebody's trying to bully you, if you react to it, if you get all indignant and shit, you're ignorant, you're a bully, meh, you're giving them what they want. Don't let somebody else have that much control over you. Now, have I lost my shit when somebody called me a name? Yes, I did when I was younger. As I got older, I stopped fucking reacting to it. Now, are there certain words you could call me right now to my face that's going to affect me a great deal? No, actually. Not anymore.
Well, hold on.
And one of the reasons is because I did exactly like people did with the N-word. I owned the shit out of the word people were trying to fucking use derogatorily. And now it doesn't affect me. Apparently, I took the power back. Whatever.
Yeah, but you as someone who's bipolar, right?
Yeah.
You understand that sometimes people lack certain
understanding
control over their own emotions.
I do completely.
So you understand, like, it's easy for some people, especially people within our community.
Yeah.
Regulating our emotions isn't always easy as somebody who's autistic.
Yes.
Or has
takes
ADHD.
It takes practice.
So it's very easy for one of us to get a little bit riled up when somebody's
absolutely
saying some horrible shit.
Absolutely. And that's why I used to get riled up by it. And here's the fun part. You can get riled up about it all you want. You can have a fucking problem with what they fucking said to you all you fucking want afterward. Don't do it to their face.
Fuckity fuck.
Don't go off on them. Like every time a keyboard warrior, okay, even in one of our fucking posts or something, when a keyboard fucking warrior decides to try to act like they're the fucking high and mighty motherfucker and tell us how to talk and tell us what we can say, what we can't say, fucking critique somebody else in one of our comments.
Like the stocks guy?
I want to delete like every fucking one of them. Now, granted, we decided as a policy we were not going to fucking do a lot of that censorship shit on our own posts and all that. But there have been times where I'm reading it going, the comment that you're bitching about, I have less of a problem with than you bitching about that comment. Like somebody who's critiquing somebody who's talking about the Yahtzee motherfucker, right? The Yahtzee name. I don't know why I'm censoring my fucking self. Fuck you people for. Anyway, for somebody who's bitching about somebody in one of our comment sections of one of our posts about they were talking about Asperger's syndrome, and somebody was bitching about Asperger's syndrome.
We don't use that word.
Yeah, fuck you. We don't. Somebody was bitching at the person for using Asperger, but it pissed me off more about the person bitching about it because of the way they did it. Not that intent thing. It wasn't the fact that they had a problem with that word, and I have no problem with them having a problem with that word. It was literally how they bitched about it.
Did you ever see that clip from South Park where Cartman shoves hamburgers in his underwear?
What?
There's a clip from South Park where Cartman puts hamburgers with hamburger buns in his underwear and complains that he's feeling sick. And then he pulls them out and says he has Asperger's. It's so dumb.
Okay. Okay, so
it's stupid.
No, and I dig it. And I dig when you actually like when you put a cap on the passion level for me every now and again. I dig it. All right. So like, have you noticed though, I've been looking at you way more during this conversation than the screen? Fucking right. Okay. So like, but it irritates me sometimes because people will get on their fucking high happy horse and fucking bitch about somebody. But the way they're bitching about them is just as a fucking impressive, just as tyrannical, just as authoritative, just as fucking privileged as they're bitching this other person is being. And it fucking bothers the shit out of me. And also with this intent thing, again, we don't talk about it from a happy perspective either. We just immediately on the shit side of it.
Listen, it doesn't matter what your intention is. You can never say Asperger's. You can never say the word. You can never say never.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick up for anybody who's been diagnosed for the last 30 fucking years who was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, and they would rather keep that fucking name. I'm gonna always stick up for that motherfucker because fuck you, young people, telling them they can't keep the label that makes them feel okay.
Plus, they're probably designing all the things you use. So,
yeah, probably. Anyway, so oh god, what was I just? Oh, I gave this example to Lauren. About this intent thing. And I'm going to use the example here. If you go to a trauma support group, okay, and somebody's talking about getting raped by a family member, well, I'm not allowed to use the word without a G on it, apparently.
Okay.
Anyway, so if you get raped by your uncle and you're telling that fucking story in a trauma support group and the person next to you starts fucking crying and getting upset and shit, like, are you wrong for telling that story? Because intent doesn't matter. You're trying to process your own shit, but they're upset and their feelings matter more than yours somehow. Like in that scenario, are you now liable for this person being upset and crying?
Well, I think in those scenarios, usually you would let the group know that you're about to talk about something like that.
Why would you let them know? You're in a trauma fucking support group.
Well, I'm saying the person would probably have an understanding that those type of things might come up.
But that's just it, though. Like you're talking about how context is important in that way, right? But intent is part of context. I think,
like if I just come up to you and I call you an R word, right? The context for that is like I'm forcing that label onto you or calling you something, versus like if I'm in a support group, I mean that's usually consensual. You're going there, you're aware. You're putting
what support group did you just call it?
I said it's usually consensual.
Yeah, but what kind of support group did you just call it?
I just said any support group.
Oh, you said any. I thought you said female support group.
No.
I'm like, no. I called it a trauma group.
No, I'm saying if you're in a group.
Yeah.
You're going in there, you know that people are going to talk about sensitive things. Yeah. So you have some control or some agency over the situation versus somebody just calling you like or calling you a slur or saying something. Yeah,
but that's just if somebody randomly calls you a fucking slur, okay? And I'm going to stick to certain types. I'm not going to talk about racial slurs in this regard of what I'm saying. I'm talking more of like slurs that I've been called along the way. Like I mean, I've been derogatorily referred to in certain ways. But
what about homo habilis? Does that count? Because I've been called a homo habilis.
Yeah. I mean, that counts too. But like
I'm a primitive human being.
But here's the thing. Did you get all pissy and shit at them and decide to educate them?
No, but I thought it was a weird insult to call someone
like I've been called the R word. I've been told the
I was like, that's kind of a weird
I've been told
to call
a lot of shit. Like I was
sociopath. I used to get that.
Yeah, I've been referred to as.
Although sociopaths do exist, but I was called it as an insult.
Yeah, I mean, I've been called gay. I've been called the F word. The other F word. I've been called all of that shit because I danced ballet as a kid. I was called a lot of fucking things because I danced ballet as a kid.
You sure it's not because you like dick in the butt?
I mean, I am also bi, so. But like, although I didn't know any of that at the time, I figured some of that shit out later.
Wait, so when you were talking about the trauma group and the uncle and the grape, wasn't that your personal story?
No, that was my personal now. But the thing about it is, like, I was called all of those things, and did it hurt when I was 8? Actually, no, because I didn't understand any of it.
Once again, are you talking about your uncle? Or
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Didn't hurt because I didn't understand what was going on. Please don't clip that.
That's what the
out.
Vaseline is for.
Yeah, that's right. That's what the Vaseline is for.
That is fucking horrible.
Well, yeah, that and, a good lollipop. I'm just saying. One from the front, one from the back. Anyway, what, his friend came over? No, please don't clip that.
Everyone has a creepy uncle, right?
Yeah, everybody got a creepy uncle. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say with that is just, like, I was called all of those names, and even when I was in puberty and in middle school and high school, yes, it bothered me sometimes when somebody called me some of those names, and it took me a while to understand that, like, I perpetuated some of that, them calling me those names, because of the way I gave into it. I perpetuated some of it because I gave rise to some of it. I gave into what they were looking for, which is to get a rise out of me. So some of them just assholes?
If I come up with a nickname for you and I call you that nickname all the time and you react by getting pissed off,
right,
then it makes me want to call you that nickname more, because it's like, well, he doesn't like it. I'm gonna keep fucking. I'm gonna keep fucking with him.
And also, something somebody pointed out to me, which was, if you get offended by being called gay, what does that say about you? If you get offended by being called a retard, what does that say about how you look at people who are DD, developmentally delayed? How does that, you know what I mean? Like, if somebody calls you Asperger's syndrome and you get all pissed off, you can try to rationalize to me that you're getting all pissed off. Well, because he was a Nazi and blah, blah, blah. You can try to fucking say that to me. But honestly, I think you kind of look down on that shit. Like, there's a party that looks down on that shit. Because honest to God, if somebody calls me a retard, okay. Like, all right.
I mean,
cool. Like, that's their fucking opinion. Who fucking cares about their opinion?
Part of the scientific process is observation, right? So
yeah, part of it. But then there's also, like, trying to follow that shit up with, like, evidence to support.
I've observed here, it looks like
you eat crayons.
Through several weeks of studying you, it appears that you are retarded.
If somebody was so polite about it, maybe I might start to believe them. Look, this intent thing, and I've talked to Steve about this outside of recording the podcast too. I care about intent a great deal, and I think more people should, because we used to give a shit more about intent. And when we started to take away that intent, far more motherfuckers were fucking way more sensitive, way louder about motherfucking shit. And people were more unwilling to give a shit about what somebody was thinking, what they've been through, who they fucking are. We just fucking wrote them off.
All right.
Instead.
So what would you say to these people who say that intent doesn't matter?
Well, here's what I would say. One, you're right. Your intent and your entire fucking thought process doesn't fucking matter. So shut the fuck up.
Well, so here's the thing. Like,
because their intent is not bad.
So, like, I look at it.
People intent.
I look at it as that's their opinion because it's subjective, right? They're saying that they don't think it matters.
Right.
Okay.
You're literally saying somebody else's thought process doesn't fucking matter.
And I understand where they're coming from because I don't.
I
understand where they're coming from because if you get really upset anytime someone calls you, let's say they were to call you, I'm just going to come up with something. Let's say people call you Pizza Face.
Yeah.
If I say, hey, Pizza Face, fuck you. Hey, Pizza Face. Hey, Pizza Face. I call you Pizza Face all the time. If you get upset when I call you Pizza Face, I'm not saying you right now. I'm just saying theoretically, the hypothetical Nick who gets upset every time I call you Pizza Face.
Right.
Of course, in that situation, I'm trying to be insulting to you, but I'm saying that.
And especially if I had a shit ton of zits on my face or
if somebody else comes by and says Pizza Face and it affects you, what they're saying is that, like, if somebody says the R word and that word bothers you, doesn't matter what the person's intention is, it doesn't change how you feel. And I get that part.
So we're still talking about being made fun of, like insults.
Right.
What about somebody who says something and it's not about an insult at all? They're talking about something totally different, but you only hear this one sentence and you get upset.
That's what they were. That's why they were saying that there's no context. You can use the R word, or that there was the same thing. They equated it to saying, like, calling something gay, right? But I don't think calling something gay is necessarily an insult, like, because like when we were kids, we used to say things were gay all the time, but we meant lame. Like things were lame. But we
hold
weren't.
on. Me and you might have meant lame out of it, although I never got into saying gay.
I just meant in general, our generation when we were younger, people used to say like, "Oh, that's gay."
No, most people in our generation used it as a derogatory way of insulting something.
Maybe we're also different age groups, but
I'm saying mine.
When I was in school, people said, "Oh, that's gay."
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
But what they meant was that's lame. We didn't use it to insult gay people. We used it like as oh, that's lame.
So I'm gonna, yeah, that's how a bunch of people I know used it.
But
actually, to this day, I know some people who still fucking
because
say
when
it that
people
way.
were trying to be homophobic, they didn't say that. They said much worse shit.
No. They said the other F word.
Right. They would say,
which, by the way, how is that an insult to anybody? It's a fucking bundle of sticks or a cigarette.
You don't want to go there.
Yeah, I really fucking don't. No. Anyway.
Oh, well, using that logic, we can rationalize a lot of horrible words, Nick.
I know.
All right.
I know, but it also takes away the fucking negative aspect of the fucking, not the history of that word, but it takes away the impact of that fucking word.
Yeah, I mean, gay used to mean happy and queer used to mean weird.
Right. Queer does mean weird, fuckers. Anyway, and gay does mean happy.
Not anymore.
Yeah, it does.
Different context now.
Because you know what? Every time I get on a dance floor and I see that Twinkie motherfucker, he looks happy as fuck.
Well, this is something that you and I butt heads about, but words evolve over time.
Okay? Yeah.
The word gay doesn't mean the same thing it meant 100 years ago. When people use gay now, it means something different.
I actually challenge
how many people
look
use
up that
gay
fucking word, and there is still a number 3 or 4 definition that says happy.
Who gives a fuck what the dictionary uses?
I do. That's how we communicate.
We care about how people use words.
Hold on. But that means intent matters.
People put words in the dictionary. The dictionary doesn't define how we use language. The dictionary describes how we use language. Okay, not the other way around. People determine words.
So what you're saying to me,
listen to Son Michelle.
I tried to. I clearly haven't gotten to that chapter of the class yet. And if y'all don't know who Son Michelle is, please look him up. And he is smart as fuck when it comes to language. Anyway, but that means intent matters because it's how you're using the word. It's what you're trying to communicate that's important. That's intent.
Yeah.
Because honest to God, where's the onus of the person who got upset to their fucking own emotions? To their own fucking reaction. Where is the onus of that? We're literally saying it's only the other person and that's it. And fuck that idea.
Here's a good example.
And by the way, keep playing devil's advocate on this because some of this I haven't thought all the way through yet.
Are you familiar with this word?
Yes, because you've brought it up to me 1,000 times.
Now, there was somebody who got fired over this word.
I don't understand that.
And
there's nothing.
But this. I think it applies to the whole intent matters.
No. But this should not apply to. By the way, we're avoiding saying this word.
I'll say it.
I know you will.
There's nothing wrong with the word.
No, there's nothing at all. It has nothing to do with anything people might assume.
If you look at it from an etymological standpoint,
or any of those standpoints,
etymologically, it has nothing in common with a word that it sounds like.
Right.
It just kind of sounds like a word that's bad.
So how come you're avoiding saying it?
Because
people are assholes. Because some other motherfucker is going to assume what and who on that word.
Yeah.
Because it's the other person getting indignant or some other bullshit.
It's a word that starts with N that means somebody who's stingy.
Or
it's cheap.
NIGGARDLY.
And it means,
by the way,
a cheap person.
I'm going to tell you one more time. We're avoiding saying it not because we find anything wrong with the word itself, but because they're wonderful assumptive cunts. Okay,
it has nothing. No, if you don't know what etymology means, it means like the origin of words. I'm not saying that our audience is dumb. I'm just pointing out that not everybody knows what etymology is.
Yeah.
Etymology is like the origin of words, where they came from, right?
Yeah.
Etymologically, that word has nothing to do with the other N word, the one that's bad.
Yeah. The bad one that literally by definition is a word to degrade or
they have different,
degrade or diminish an entire race of people.
They have different origins as far as like country of origin, language origin, and completely. They just happen to sound somewhat similar in English, but they have different origins and they have nothing to do with each other. But I could see somebody being immature and trying to use that word maybe to like get a rise out of somebody.
Right.
But like there's a context where somebody used the word appropriately who didn't have that intention, but got fired.
Just because somebody assumed it had something to do with something it didn't have anything to do with.
But
because
in that
someone
case,
else
does
was
the intention
wrong.
matter?
See, I think it does because the other person who got pissy about it was fucking wrong. Like wrong in every fucking stretch of the imagination. I believe that is fucking wrong. The other person shouldn't have gotten fired whatsoever.
On a completely separate note,
Yeah.
have you ever seen the the video of that the teacher who one of his students called him the N-word and then he said it back? Remember that? And then he was trying to defend it.
No.
It's fucking funny. I wish I could. I don't have our recording set up to be able to play video right now. But it was, you gotta watch it sometimes, the clip. White male teacher, one of his students called him the N-word. He said, like, what's up, my...
Yep.
And then, because the student was being disruptive or whatever, he said, well, sit down, and N-word back to him. And it sounded like...
Did he say, sit down, my...
No, it just... Because the guy said it to him, he repeated back to him what he said. But he said, well, sit down. But I think it was clear for me for watching the video that the guy... I don't think that he was... It's one of those things where you fuck up and something slips that you shouldn't have said. I don't think that he intentionally was trying to be offensive or say something to that kid. But what made it worse was he tried to defend it afterwards and say like, well, you know, I was saying it with the G-A, not the other.
Well, because he got a whole lot of, oh shit, my job's in jeopardy because motherfuckers didn't understand my context.
Well, I don't even think what the context was like he was. Then again, all I saw was the video clips of it online, but it seemed like it was something that just slipped. Like a kid said something to him and he repeated it back because the kid was interrupting the class. It was like one of those, like a moment where somebody slips and does something that they shouldn't. But I don't think he was like trying to be racist or anything. But I don't know. It's like, I'm sure teachers will, like, if a teacher called you, if a student called you something and the teacher has a certain pattern of behavior of repeating that thing back to them. Maybe he just did that and like didn't fucking click in his brain because you were you know.
You know what's something, and I've known this for a while, but I've actually been debating whether to actually say this on this podcast or not. I actually got some of the belief about this, about what I'm about to say, from the movie Roadhouse. Patrick Swayze taught me something.
Okay.
So,
how to dance?
No, I didn't learn from him. I learned from a woman named Rosie. Anyway, so in the movie, he you know what he is. He's a cooler. He's a bouncer.
I've never seen it. I know what the movie is, but I've never seen it.
Okay, so fuck the scene. I'm not going to describe the scene to you, but basically it was like this. He's telling all of his bouncers to not react if somebody calls you a name or whatever.
Roadhouse.
Yeah. And one of the bouncers goes, well, what if he calls my mama a whore? And he immediately responds with, is she? And the guy got a little pissy about it. And he was like, what if somebody calls you a motherfucker? I took the same logic as, is she? Like, is it the truth? Like, if somebody calls me a motherfucker, yes, because I fuck my wife and she's a mother, so I am a motherfucker.
You know, I saw this clip earlier on YouTube. I don't know if it was today or yesterday.
I was trying to make a point here.
But it's related to what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
Somebody was saying, I think it was one of these psychologists podcasts that I was listening to.
Sure.
And he was saying that typically when people get hurt or upset about things that people say, it's because they believe there's some truth to it.
Right. There's some level of truth to it.
So like if you think that if you're sensitive, like if you get offended by somebody calling you the R word, could it be that you just don't like the word because you think the word's offensive? Yes. But it could also be because
you look down on your fucking self or think yourself stupid in some fucking way, which fuck you for looking down on fucking DD people.
So the ones that actually hurt are the ones that we believe ourselves.
Right. There's some relation we carry to it.
Right.
That's what I was trying to say before of like, if somebody calls you gay and you get fucking offended because they called you gay, you know, usually it's macho fucking cis hetero men who get fucking pissy about that. If you get upset by that, are you getting upset because somebody's trying to derogatorily make fun of that community or because they're trying to say you suck dick?
I had context for this and I think I brought it up on another episode. I can't remember now. But I used to hang out with I had friends who were gay, but I also had, I had straight friends and gay friends, but because I had, compared to the percentage of the population, I had quite a few gay friends. So my dad used to ask me if I was gay
because you had a fuck ton of gay friends.
Because I had gay male friends.
Yeah.
That used to piss me off. Not because he was calling me gay or thinking that I might be gay.
Right.
It was that, like, why would you assume just because I have gay friends that I would be like...
Well, but he wasn't making an assumption, though. He was asking for clarification.
It was the way that he said it.
Yeah, okay.
He was like, are you gay? What are you, gay?
Well, but that's just it. He's asking if you are. He's looking for clarification.
But it was like, why do you have to say it like that?
Why do you have to be offended by it? Why are you assuming his intent?
Because he used to be very homophobic.
Yeah. I can only imagine there's some context that I'm trying to avoid.
Still kind of is.
Yeah. Well, I'm also going to say this. If somebody calls you a name and it's true, then you have no right to get upset because they told you the fucking truth. And if they call you a name and it ain't fucking true, you have no right to get upset because it ain't fucking true. So mind your fucking feelings. And by the way, I do want to point this out because Steve did make a valid point earlier about some people in some of these communities that we're talking about, whether it be a neurodiverse type, autism, DD, whether it be any of that. There is some emotional regulation issues, right? But just because something you have or something you are or something, whatever, I don't care what wording you want to use. Just because that has emotional regulation issues, that doesn't mean you can't work on it. Just like when motherfuckers tell me that I need to have some self-fucking control and not be a dick all the time. You might say those are two very different things, and no, they aren't. It's a pattern of fucking behavior that you can fucking work on. It's a skill set to learn. I could try not being a dick to people, and the best thing I've figured out how to do is not piss off my wife. Like, that's the closest to not being a dick I can get. But then again, I also came to terms with the consequences of being a dick. Right? I've come to terms with it. I've come to terms with when people call me those fucking names, I came to terms with what I am. I only over the last 7 years am able to talk about and be upfront about my own sexuality in that way. I didn't talk about it when I was younger. So even though I was screwing around with guys.
Here's the flip side.
About it. What?
Can you think of situations where the intent doesn't matter at all?
Yes. Yes,
so, for instance,
yes, I can.
Here's an exaggerated or hyperbolic version of it.
Give me the extreme version.
The extreme example is, does it really matter why Hitler killed 6 million Jews? It doesn't matter why he did it. He fucking did it.
Well, I mean, he killed more than just Jews, though.
Well, I'm just talking specifically about the Holocaust, right?
Yeah, during the Holocaust, he did kill more than that.
There's a bunch of different reasons why they did that, right? But none of them fucking matter. At the end of the day, they still killed a bunch of people.
Yes. The intent doesn't matter in that regard, but then again, his intent was to kill anybody who was not X.
Does that intent make it worse?
What, the fact that he did it to do that?
Yeah, to wipe out people who were like wanted to get rid of.
I think that's worse.
Quote unquote gypsies, because I don't know if that's offensive or not. I know some people don't like it. Romani, whatever you want to call them, Romani people.
Whatever.
He wanted to get rid of the Romani people. Yeah. He wanted to get rid of people who were DD.
He wanted to get rid of everyone who was not X.
Right, and he had different reasons for trying to justify this.
Yes,
yes. Like I guess you could argue, like, well, if so, I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just saying, like, if you truly believe that you want to have a society that's as functional as possible and you want to provide the best possible future for humanity. Mm-hmm. And some people, did you hear that?
No.
Some people will blame, I know that there's people who blame like some of the philosophers of the 19th century and they blame Darwin and they blame some of like, after Darwin in evolution and some of the theories surrounding that stuff, people took it in a certain extreme way and also misinterpreted Nietzsche and shit like that. And kind of perverted a lot of those ideas.
Right. A lot of people pervert the Bible in that way
so
too.
If you say that, humans are animals and we want people to only pass on the best genes or this and that.
Right.
Survival of the fittest, all that shit. Well, why should we have people around who have DD? Because they're only holding down society. Like that's their
Right.
That's their justification.
From that kind of context of that person. You're right.
Because they're holding everybody else back for the betterment of humanity, the betterment of society.
Right.
It's better if we just get rid of these people.
Well, so in that regard, though, like if the intent is to purify humanity or some shit, why do we need to? That would be my question: is why do we need to? Then again, like
I purify everything. I got a filter on my tap
an
water.
air purifier, water purifier.
Yeah. To make sure that
why not a human purifier?
I don't want to increase my level of tism, so I make sure that I filter my tap water.
Oh, good God.
I also try to get as few vaccines as possible. I mean, if I get bit by a dog, I'm not running out to get a tetanus shot. Okay.
Oh my God.
I'll just take the tetanus. It's fine.
Yeah, you keep your rabies. You keep your rabies there, guy. Wait, tetanus. Don't you only get tetanus from like fucking rusty metal?
You can get it from animal bites too.
Oh, really?
Well,
I
at least
no idea.
My mother got bit by a parrot when I was a kid, and she had to get a tetanus shot.
Oh, well, parrots all need to die anyway.
Well,
I'm a bird purist.
My grandmother died when I was very young, and she had a Amazon, like one of those green parrots that talks.
Sure.
And so he lived with us when I was a little kid, and
right.
he used to sing, and he's one of those birds that talks and sings.
I think you've told me about this.
You can have conversations with him.
Yeah.
Well, for whatever reason, he didn't like my mother, so my mother was trying to help clean his cage one day, and she fucking bit her.
Oh.
Yeah,
well,
she had to get a tetanus shot.
So let's jump back on topic real quick because
I wanted to move into something a little different, but we spent so much time on this topic. I don't think we can really move on at this point.
So.
I wanted to talk about depression a little bit, but
yeah, well, another episode.
I mean, mental health
that goes into conjunction with some other stuff.
Mental health might be affected by saying mean things.
Okay, here's what I've said this.
I didn't make enough jokes this episode.
Oh, all right. I've said this in previous episodes, and it's something that I'm more than willing. It's the hill I'm willing to die on. Is mind your own fucking feelings. Like, if somebody says some shit with ill intent. I think that's something to address. But if somebody tips onto or slides onto a fucking topic that sets you to fuck off because you've got history of it, there's no way they can know that. So mind your own feelings for it. And also don't take out your excess baggage on somebody else. Take it out on the right person. If you got an ex-boy, well, I'm gonna get real fucky on this. If you got an ex-boyfriend who used to punch you in the fucking face and you're in a DV situation, absolutely horrible. I do not condone it, and fuck that human being for doing it to you. But if you treat the next guy horribly because of it, you're wrong. If you hear somebody making a joke about slapping a friend, male or female, slapping a friend, and you at a bar and you start breaking down in tears, that's your PTSD. You or your friends have no right to yell at that person in the bar. He's joking with his buddy. Okay, male or female buddy, but joking with his buddy. But it's your shit you got to process.
What if you're on a bus with Billy Bush and you're talking about grabbing people by the P word? And
so
I'm kidding.
Don't get me started on that. They clipped that one fucking sentence out of a fucking big. Okay.
You love Trump.
I hate that motherfucker in so many ways.
You defended him. It means you love him.
Whatever.
You can never defend anything he's ever done or said.
That's the other fucking part of this too. Is
everything's absolute.
That's super bad too. Is people will then go make assumptions, and then spout off all this bullshit about somebody. And I'm not talking about Trump right now. I'm talking about like if you say anything about that situation, they immediately think you love the motherfucker, and then they go and tell other people that without having any idea of who you are.
All right, I wanted to go back into the intent thing.
Yes, intent.
I think something that we missed and we didn't mention.
Okay,
you have to also consider that our people,
the TISM.
Yes.
Yep.
By our people, I don't mean white males, Nick. I mean autistic people.
Motherfuckers assume when I talk about my community to other people, first and foremost, people assume I mean white people.
All right, hold on.
And I'm like, no.
Okay.
Autistic. Go ahead.
Listen, we know you're white.
Yeah.
You love mayonnaise. You spread it all over your body.
Oh, I had a beautiful mayonnaise.
I go to the beach with this motherfucker, and he doesn't use lotion. He just spreads mayonnaise right all over. Okay. Yeah. That'll probably make you burn. Because the oil.
This would be so horrible for your skin, I think.
I
would think. Anyway, go ahead.
So one thing we didn't take into account, we haven't really touched on.
Oh, God.
Our people aren't always great at at understanding intention and interpreting people's behavior.
Yeah. And also communicating what we really mean.
So how do we know that we're applying the right intent? So if we say intent does matter, how do we know what someone's intention is? We're not mind readers.
You're right.
We have to infer.
We have to ask. We have to talk.
We have to ask or infer because people aren't always going to be honest, especially if you call them out after they've done something.
But that's just it. Don't necessarily call them out. Ask them what the fuck they mean. If somebody says something pseudo fucking racist or pseudo fucking sexist, don't assume that's what they are and that's all there is to it. Ask them about it. And if they continue to talk derogatorily about one of the two of those fucking groups, then there's some evidence to fucking support.
That's a woman problem. Well, what do you mean? Well, I think that that's a woman's issue. I mean, I think everything went downhill once we gave them the right to vote. Oh, okay, you're sexist.
Yeah, so now let's walk away. But if somebody, so here's a scenario, and I've come across this in my past. I was sitting at a bar. Person came, sat down next to me, got a beer, and I don't know why in the fuck everybody thinks they can talk to me this way or talk to me period randomly. But I was sitting at the bar, and this guy goes, women. And I went, they exist. And he goes, what? And I was like, oh, nothing. You said women, and I thought I had to say something, so I said they exist. And he goes, I know. And then he started saying some shit that I thought was fucking sexist, but it ended up not being sexist. He just had a fight with his wife, and he just wanted to vent a little bit. But instead of talking about the problem at hand, because, NTs are fucking, they have fucking issues with that. They always got to dance around some shit. He
call out their whole gender.
Right. He started in a general way, and then we worked it down to the real issue, which was he actually felt really bad that him and his wife got into a screaming match for the first time in many years. And it was over something really small. But we got to that point because I was unwilling to walk away. Even though I didn't want to talk to him, I had no interest in talking to this person, and I left the conversation going. I just wasted fucking 40 minutes of my goddamn life on a guy who just wanted to fucking talk.
What really bothers me,
should have talked to his fucking wife
in those situations.
Yeah,
it's not the guy who wants to vent about his problems with his wife or say some vaguely sexist shit.
Yeah,
it's the sexual stuff that bothers me when men will if an older guy is like, "Hey, tits," right? Or
has someone ever actually said that to you?
Oh yeah, people have said inappropriate shit to me before, like, oh, that girl has nice tits, or talking about pussy. And I'm like, this is kind of fucking weird. Oh, yeah, especially when it's somebody I don't know.
I've been in those conversations and it gets very, very weird.
I don't know you. Why are you talking about some random girls, some woman in the room? You're talking about her in a sexual way, and I don't even know the fuck you are.
Yeah, I've sometimes fucked with them, and they're just like, "Ooh, the ass on her," and I was like, "Hey, look at his butt." And, just because I know it's going to make them go away. Because remember, I like to be a dick to keep people at arm's length. Yeah,
that just makes me uncomfortable because I've always felt like there's a certain expectation that I'm supposed to just agree or go along with it.
Well, because you're a dude. That's how dudes talk.
And I'm just always
for some reason.
I'm just always like, okay. When people say that shit, I'm just like, all right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. When I was in my teens and 20s, I talked that way too. But it was more about, and my intention or my context, it was more about trying to be able to be accepted and get along. And so, I said some fucking comments.
Locker room talk. Yeah. But I never participated in that stuff. It made me uncomfortable. I think part of it was I had family members, male family members who would do that kind of stuff too. Older. Okay. So and I was a teenager.
So anti on that.
I was a 12-year-old boy, 11-year-old boy, and I had older men being like, so I'm just like, that's kind of weird.
I mean, and I did talk that way at times, but I was also trying to be accepted. I wanted to have friends. I wanted to be accepted and feel normal. Fuck it, if I knew that I was fucking weird at that time. I didn't understand why I didn't get the joke.
It's also what would make me uncomfortable is if my dad or another male.
Yeah.
I say male because it was usually a guy doing it. But a male family member would do that same sort of thing, but with a girl who was either around my age or a little older. Let's say I'm 13. There's an attractive 16-year-old girl, and then they're like, "Hey, there's a girl."
This is getting creepy.
You never had a guy go like,
"Oh no, I had."
There's a girl for you. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, That shit makes me so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Why the fuck are you saying
So
this?
when I was still dancing ballet, one of the last years I danced ballet, I was about 10 or 11 years old, and somebody's dad, or maybe his older brother, older male, who was related to the young lady that I was dancing with, actually like nudged me and said, "Hey, she's single." And I went, "Okay." And they were like, "Well, you and her would be great together." And I'm like, "What?" Like, we're both starting out in puberty and shit. Like, my mind went racing 1,000 different directions of like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, my
Well, it was fucking weird.
I think I've told you this story. Did I tell you the story about my dad bringing me to Hooters when I was like 11 or 12 and I felt really uncomfortable?
You did. Yeah. I don't know why this thought just popped into my head. You know when the first time I knew full well I thought dudes were sexy? This just popped into my fucking head.
I don't think you told me.
Okay.
Maybe you have, or I forgot.
I was dancing ballet. It was the last year I was doing the Nutcracker at
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's way funny. I get it.
Just for the context of the story.
The context. So it was for Hartford Ballet, Bushnell Stage in Hartford, Connecticut. I was a Sugar Plum Fairy because that was the age range that I was in for that role. And we were coming out in the play.
Oh, you were coming out, all right.
We were coming out of this woman's dress, this big, large, mannequin-looking woman, and we're coming out of the dress, and the two people inside that were operating the arms of this woman were these two guys, but they were also dancers in other parts of the show. And so this one guy was wearing this like skin-tight bodysuit kind of thing, and
you get a chubby?
Well, no. I was late on my cue, even though I'm standing next to this girl that I'm supposed to walk out with. I was late on my cue because I'm looking at his ass.
You sick motherfucker.
And, well, I mean, like, I looked up. He's right there above me, and he's got this beautiful, fucking athletic ass.
You're never, ever allowed to check anyone out unless you're an
Well,
attractive
but that
person.
was like one of the first. But I looked back on that once I started.
If you're an attractive male or an attractive woman, then you can check people out.
But like that was
if
one
you're
of the
ugly,
first times. Yeah,
you can't check people out.
But that was one of the first times that I fucking even thought about like, oh, look at that. I don't know why we're talking about objectifying somebody, and I objectified some guy. So I mean, I wasn't thinking.
Isn't
about
there
it
a difference? Because I
wasn't thinking about it in a sexual way.
I'm not bisexual.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard for me to wrap my head around this. But
sure.
Couldn't you find somebody attractive, like think that someone's attractive, but not want to have sex with them?
Yes.
Like
yes, there's a lot of people I find attractive, male and female, and
like,
I have no want or desire to fuck them.
I don't find men attractive.
Okay, so
but I think that certain men are like good-looking guys.
Are there women you find attractive that you don't want to fuck? That you have no sexual arousal for whatsoever?
Probably a lot of them, yeah.
Okay. So in that regard, can you look at and know that a woman is beautiful or attractive or sexy and not want to fuck her?
Yes, but what I'm saying is the opposite. Right I'm saying, how did you know that, like,
that I wanted to fuck him?
Like, admiring men meant that you wanted to have sex with them.
Well, so I didn't necessarily want to fuck him. I was a little bit young for that.
That's what I'm saying. But how did you know, like, that?
Because I knew it felt different than when I looked at other people.
Okay.
And as I got older and further into puberty, and as I grew up, that feeling I could then recognize as sexual desire.
When I get that feeling,
and especially this gentleman, like he was really fucking well built.
Sexual.
But that's what it is. Like, and I've had people ask me this question, and people are like, "Well, how did you know?" And it's literally because I can look at two men who look super similar, okay, and one is somebody I would like to get to know intimately, and the other one is just somebody I know full well looks sexy. Because one gives me a certain feeling and then the other one. But I can also equate that to women too. I mean, there are women who, quote unquote, are sexy as hell, like celebrity women, and I don't find, all right. But I know they're attractive. I know they're sexy women, but I have no desire in that way. It's all
about the facial symmetry.
Actually, it's full proportionality for me. Like, if a person can be heavier or thinner, I can't believe we're straying into this fucking topic.
So you don't like Ariana Grande because she's like 5 feet tall?
No. She looks proportionate for her size.
Oh.
Actually, maybe eat a fucking cheeseburger now and again, but because I like average to more.
You know
than
that's
average
considered
women.
body shaming, right?
I don't give a fuck. You can body shame me too. I'm a little fat.
Well, so this is one thing that I've heard
And way out of shape.
Body shaming, we usually talk about people who are a lot bigger.
Yeah, but there's also
for people who are thin, a common complaint is like people will tell them, "Fucking eat something," you know.
Right. No, I'm actually
they assume
saying
that
because you look sickly. I'm not your doctor, and I
they
know
assume
nothing about the
that
human
like
body
somebody's
in that way.
skinny that they don't eat enough, but there are people who just have a really good metabolism and they eat what as many calories as they should eat. It's just the way their body is.
Can I stray us into another topic because it just popped into my head? Or should I hold it for next time?
About 5 minutes.
Nope. I'll wait for the next time. All right. I got one.
It's like you open a whole can of worms right at the end of the episode.
Oh yeah. I don't want to open a can of worms. So anyway, since we're getting close to
who
the end
shot
of the episode,
first, Han or Greedo?
if you actually listen to the episode all the way to this fucking point, please leave a comment. If you agreed or disagreed with anything you heard today, leave a comment. And if you'd like to shout out to me and Steven and just say howdy, well, please do that too. Also, if you want to be on our show, you got to contact us. info@onthespectrumpod.com. Podcast.com? .net. Pod or podcast.net?
It's info@onthespectrumpodcast.net.
Podcast.net.
Because onthespectrumpodcast.com
was taken.
Well, it's not taken, but it's one of those domains that was bought by somebody else and they wanted to resell it for a large amount of money.
Oh, that's right.
And we said no, fuck that.
Yeah, we did. That's why we did .net.
You know how like people will buy up domains and then sell them to companies?
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Like,
that's what it was.
Yeah, like if you find like, hey, a Barbie movie 2 is coming out. I'm going to buy up all the Barbie movie 2 URLs, all the domains.
So leave a comment. Talk with us. Give us some advice. Give us some ideas because we like to talk to people. And again, if you want to be on the show, contact info@whathesaid.net on the spectrumpodcast.net.
I believe it. I also put it up on the screen at the end of the episode.
I'm just saying. So you're about to see it on the screen any minute now. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to the episode.
And remember, not all pee-pee times.
Poo-poo times. He loves to end the episode with that. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Special thanks to our Patreon subscribers. Thank you, Ray Hansen,